Okay, we're live. So what we're going to do is we're going to port a Kotlin app into Flutter. So we're going to see some Kotlin code and we're going to see some Flutter code. Now I'll screen share and minimize. I hope all of you can see my screen. Now this is the default Flutter app that comes with every new project. And let's just build the Flutter app from scratch instead of going for something like what we're building is this. It's called interactive story. It's kind of a small game, role-playing game where you play a role and eventually some steps come and you have to take a decision, and depending on the decision that you made, you are taken to different situations. And depending upon those situations, like you either win or lose, or you get something amazing or not. So this is based on the concept of so you press a button and you're taken to one of the two options, and every option leads to another situation, and in the end you either find your lost android, or you kind of ignore the situation and return back to earth, but you never know what that sound was from. Okay, now we're going to like this, close this, and start coding. So Bhavik already showed us how the Flutter app works, so I'll just start coding and explaining what I'm doing. The first thing I like to do is delete the existing code, and then I import material.dart, and then obviously I have to write the main function. In main function I call run app with new. I'll give it a name called my app. So there are a couple of considerations, especially in main.dart. Whenever you import, you should never import things like, okay, I'll show you later. First of all, let's make a my app. So if I type STLESS, it will already automatically generate the stateless widget code for me, and I just need to give it the name, and that's how it's done. And here I'll return a material app. Now material app needs some parameters, color or builder, or what I'll give it is two main things. One is the title, and for title we need a string, yes, and this app is called interactive story. One moment. Bharat is here, Kevin is here, Mahima is here. Uh, okay, I will. And Rohit, I think everyone is here, and even Kevin could join, so I guess you'll be allowed to join. Okay, I'll resume the screen sharing now. And minimize this, and maximize this, and better than presentation mode. Okay. So what we're doing is my app, which is the main app, is basically a stateless widget for now, and its name is interactive story. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to give it a home, and the home screen will need to be, say, another widget, because in Flutter everything is a widget. So we'll just call it home screen, and we'll import it from, like, let's make a new Dart file. So we made a home screen file, and material class home screen. We kind of can generate it with STFUL. Will generate a stateful widget, and if we rename it home screen, as you can see, not just the stateful widget but also the like corresponding state gets generated by itself. That's code generation for you. Now this is what I was talking about, that when you import different files, you could do like home screen slash home screen dot dot. But when you are in main dot dot, this thing applies only for main dot dot. Never import it using relative paths. Use absolute paths starting from package interactive story slash home screen dot dot. Otherwise you'll get some errors. You might get some errors, you might not get some errors, but it's always a best practice, at least in main dot dot, to import using full paths instead of just the relative paths. Now we have a home screen dot dart file, and we're going to give it a build method. So right now it's just returning a container. Let's run it and see what happens. And the application has been restarted, means, yeah, so this is our app right now, just a container. Let's just change its color. There's a helper class called colors, which can give you a lot of material colors, the entire material palette actually. And let's see if it changes anything. As you can see, so what we need now is, let's have another look at the, so we need an app bar, which is somewhat of a dark gray color. Well, actually we can pick from here. KD provides an interesting color picker. So We have 1E2629. Cool. So what we can do over here is we need an app bar. So instead of a container, we return a scaffold. And scaffold allows us to like show dialog and show a snack bar and show a like add the navigation drawer with really ease. So that's what scaffold does for us. It just gives us a lot of helper functions that we can call to do a bunch of stuff. Now within scaffold, we are going to have an app bar, and that app bar will be a new app bar. And we have some stuff over here. So we could have something to do with color. It has a background color. Now let's see, we have this 1E2629. I can copy it like this. And now we have color. Color from RGB. Let's just go to the color class and see what are the available. Okay. Okay, so we have color and it wants an integer value. So we give it a integer value. And let's see if it does the job. Okay, we have an app bar 1E2629. I think it needs a FF for the alpha as well. And that's how simply we have the app bar. We have the app bar with exactly the color we needed. FF is for alpha opacity, and the rest part is the actual color which we like selected from the video directly. So we're one step closer to being able to completely building the home screen. The next thing that we need to do is we have this image, right? And we have a text field where you can enter your name and you have a start your adventure. So what I'm like willing to do is what I want to do from here is let's give it a little flair like signals from Mars, and let's make this thing like this entire screen a button, and the moment you click you start your adventure, and there's a dialog that asks for your name, and you enter your name in the dialog. The moment you press OK, there's a snack bar that shows your adventure begins, and then you get redirected to the next screen. That is what we're going to do from here on. So the first step we'll take is we'll need to kind of im import all these images, and this Flutter IO cookbook is one of the best resources where you can find most of the things you're looking for. So there's a lot of images. However, what we need to do is we just need an image asset for now. So what we'll do is uh, I already kind of extracted the images in the resources folder. So we'll just select all of these images and we'll make a new directory, assets slash images, and we'll drag and drop everything over here. Can we? We'll just copy and paste otherwise. Okay, now as we can see, we have all the images over here. Now what we need to do is we need to go to pubspec.yaml and import all these images. So you have this, we have examples for adding assets. So all we need to do is kind of comment these out and also maybe do a shift tab on them. YAML files. YAML stands for actually yet another markup language, and we kind of define our dependencies and the properties of the Flutter application within this file. So if you say need a new plugin, you would just add it just below the Cupertino icons. If you need any other description, that is where you'll add it. So to add assets, what we need to do is just specify the folder, and this will do. So if we suppose do an asset slash images slash, and this should technically work if you do a packages get, and let's see if we have those assets. So in scaffold we have an app bar, and below the app bar, just suppose we have a body, right? We need a body, and that is what the screen of the scaffold is. So for the body, what we need is a column. So we're now kind of working towards breaking this layout. So we see it's kind of a vertical layout, and this is best suited for a column below which there'll be, like, it'll have a child called image, and then a text view and the start your adventure button. But see, as I made the app, I know that this area is kind of empty area, nothing is over here. So what I like to do is instead of a column, can we get away with just an image? And that is what I'm going to like figure out. So instead of a column, can we do an image dot asset, and then we'll have to specify the address of the asset, which would be assets slash images slash main underscore dot ping, and then we can do a fit box fit not cover, and let's see if we can, like, let's see if we got anything. from this. So we got it on our app. We successfully put the image on the map. The main pain point that I see over here is this white space. And that's kind of like, I don't know what to do with it. What we can do is, like, we can place a button over here, start your adventure, like we had in that, but not in the same way, as that kind of looked ugly. So we can kind of do this, that we can wrap it in a column, and then as a sibling to image we can have kind of a button. So I'm thinking flat button will be like a better choice for this. Let's give it an anonymous function right now. So this on pressed will take a function which it will call every time it's pressed. It's kind of called a callback pattern. So this is an anonymous function where you put in the kind of variables it will accept and the function's body. So I'm just putting an empty anonymous function over here. Now it's child. So child will be text, and let's set the string to what should we set it to? And kind of save it and see what we got. So we have a begin your adventure, but we want this to be a little bit prettier. So what we'll be doing is we'll kind of be wrapping it into a center. So what we can do is, okay, I haven't completed editing this. We go to flat button and center widget and see what happens. Not much. Okay. So center doesn't work. So I can just remove center. Now what I can do is, since it's inside a column, first thing I need to do is give it a better size, a style, the text. So style, okay, style, text, style. Let's reformat this. I always press Alt comma for reformat. You can set it in your IDE settings. Dart FMT is an amazing tool and it always formats your code to be really beautiful. Now in text style, what should we say? Like, we have font size. So we could give it, suppose, 20 and see. Okay, that looks much better. Now I'm wondering whether, like, it would have been better if it were a raised button. And look how easily I simply swapped the material button with raised button and all the parameters remain the same, and that's kind of the beauty of Flutter. So I'm liking raised button better, but what I want is that this raised button should be somewhere, like, there should be some distance between this image and the raised button. And also I'd like to increase the font a bit more and also like make it a little bit bolder. So what we can do is, we can give it a font weight within the text style, and we can like say font weight is actually a helper class, which you can actually you can do from W100 to W900, or you could also simply say bold. Let's see what we have. Okay, now since it's light text on dark background theme, so what I'll try to do is I'll try to give the button the same color as the app bar, and then give the text a whitish color. So what I'll do over here is this raised button, let's see if it has a color. Amazing. So every time I press Control space, it shows me the kind of properties that it accepts. That's one thing to know. So let's just give it the same color. Colors dot, just say I'll do a black 54, and obviously this will take a color as well. And one more save, and let's see what we got. Okay, this looks a little bit better, but not. This can use a little bit more work, I guess. So what I'll do is that I'll add some padding, and let's give it, let's see what happens when we have it. Okay, now we're talking. I think we could do a bit better. Um, let's kind of do one thing. Yeah, this works much better. Now what we'll do is we'll make it 10. See what happens. Okay, 12. I'm making it 15. Yeah, this works best. And sized box is the widget that is the most useful for, like, if you want an empty space between two widgets, size box is your thing to go to. So now we have a height of 8, and we're not. Let's see if we can solve this with some column property. Okay, so there's a thing called main axis alignment. And if we give it a main axis alignment property, we have center, end, space around, space between, space evenly, and start. So if the alignment is start, like we do need it to be start, because otherwise, like if I say it's space evenly and control S, so there's a gap over here. Although this is not looking half bad, like this is looking really beautiful. But anyways, if we have space around, so what will happen is that it will be a little bit more apart from each other. If we have a space between space even. So what we can do is we can kind of, I think I like space around, space between. Okay, we can work with this, and let's just increase the size of the button. Now what this will do is it will ensure that the entire, like on all screen sizes, this remains fixed at the bottom and this remains fixed at the top. But if we would have been using other approaches to this, what this would have done is it there could have been some overlap between this, which would not have been a very good way to do this. So what we're going to do is we're now going to just add more padding, and for that, like this is edgeinsert.all. What we're going to do is we're going to use edgeinsert.symmetric, and we're going to separate the vertical padding from the horizontal padding. So we're going to give it a vertical padding of say 18, and the horizontal padding of say, we could give it a 30, and we could increase it to a 50. The best thing with padding is that even if you do a 150, okay, we can't do a 150. We could give it a bold dot in. Okay. Just stay at a 50. Suppose if we really wanted to make this full width, what could we have done? What we could have done is instead of padding, we could have wrapped it inside a container. Okay. And we have edgeinsert.symmetric, and we could have just set the container width to we could have set the container width to actually MediaQuery dot of context dot size dot width, and let's see what it does for us. Okay, and then wrap the text in a center. Okay, yeah, so this is what we can do. This media query object, actually this is what I was talking about, that material app has a media query child which allows you to query the size of the screen and different properties of what screen and device you're using right now. And okay, so we have done till here that we have almost made this app. Let's see what else we're missing. So we're missing a title on the app bar. What we can do is, like for that, what we can do is, that's not, like we missed it actually. App bar has a title, and title can be anything actually. It can be an icon. Do we have a spaceship over here? Like just suppose if we have this, so we could have an aeroplane instead of our app name, but our app's name is interactive story, so we'll just, this is the benefit.
Go for a rocket if possible.
And just suppose we do this interactive The next thing we can do is like we can. I am still not satisfied with the width, so we can do it W400 5. Okay, this works the best. Now let's implement the feature. Let's just implement this much that once we click begin your adventure, it first asks me for my name and then displays it in a snack bar. Okay. The moment we press the button, it asks me for my name on a dialog, and the moment I press OK, it kind of shows me a snack bar that we're off to Mars. So let's do that. So what we're going to do is we had this on pressed void callback over here. So now we're going to give it a function. So what function are we going to give it? So this build is the build context, and we need the context to show the dialog. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to choose a scope which has the build context. So let's declare a function inline over here. Ask name build context, and what it will do is show dialog context, and what we can do over here is on pressed we can just launch ask name context. Now let's see what happens once we press S. Builder is not equal to null is not true because we haven't actually given it a builder. So it needs to have a context, and like let's just return a. This is a fat arrow function. It just returns like let's just return a text inside a center. Okay, to give an idea. What's happening? Okay, so when we save this and actually stateful load it, press this, it shows a hi. So what's happening? On pressed passes this context, this build context, to the dialog show dialog function which has a builder. So you think of dialog as another screen on which we can paint something and then we can return some value. So dialog is kind of a user interaction in which we show them some options or either ask for some text input and then we get back the value. Show dialog actually returns a future. So also we don't need to pass the context over here. because it's in within the same context. So I'm kind of making a mistake. Let me find it. Okay. So let's just refresh again just to make sure that we haven't created a bug. And no, everything is working fine for now. Okay, so we need a string name equals show dialog. What's the error? A value of type future can't be assigned to variable of type string because the show dialog returns a future, as I said. So we will use async await. Oh, sorry. This function is async. Now let's kind of format it. So what's happening is that it's showing dialog and it's awaiting for a string called name. Now what we need to do is we need to have a builder that can like give back the name once it is popped. So here is where our work starts. We'll have a card. Let's give it another name, say Dialog Builder. And write the Dialog Builder separately. It accepts a build context but doesn't do anything with it, which is why I'm just leaving an underscore over here. And as you can see, the moment I declared it, now the problem with this is that this should be returning a widget. Dynamic can't be assigned to parameter dynamic widget. So as soon as I declare this function as something that accepts a build context and returns a widget, this dialog builder is satisfied. Now I need to satisfy this function by returning a widget from this. So I'll just start by return a card which will have a container. Once again, let's just use MediaQuery to get the width of the screen. So width, I think, will container width will be a double equals MediaQuery dot of context dot size dot width. And since we are using context now, it's no longer something we can ignore, and that's what container width is going to be. And we can fix aspect ratios over here. Suppose let's do a 16 by 9. So if width is 16, height is width divided by 16 into 9. So height is container width divided by 16 into 9. And let's just give it a child. which is a column, because we want text that gives an instruction. And then we need a text field that will actually allow us to ask for the name, allow the user to enter the name. And then we will need a flat button, which once again will have a text as the child. Let's just give it an icon. Let's see, flight takeoff. Okay. Let's test this out. So when we're pressing begin your adventure, we have this. Okay. So this container width is this, and container width divided by 9 into 16. That's what we were hoping for. So what this will do is okay, something is amiss. So dialog builder, if we like just give it hard coded values, what happens? 200.0, and I want height to be around 150. 150.0, and okay. So what's happening is, I guess the column is expanding itself. So in exercise, let's see what happens. Oh, returned a card. Card has a container. Container has a fixed width and fixed height, and has a column as a child, which has text field, shine icon, flight takeoff. Let's see if we can do something about this. We don't want it to cover the entire screen, definitely. So what we can do about this is, the dialog builder will definitely take a build context, and Okay, that's the problem. I got it. Ask name dialog builder is being used over here. Okay, and ask name is being used over here, which is inside a raised button. So as soon as ask name is done, it asks for a name, which is an asynchronous function, which is string show dialog and passes. Let's go back to the dialog builder. Dialog builder has a card which tends to expand, which has a child called container. So what if we do this is if we do the swap child and put this inside the center. Okay, so we were able to do this. So container was able to contain the entire card thing, and once again see as the screen size decreases, this button gets overlapped with the background, and that's again a problem which the Flutter team is supposed to fix soon. But for now, let's move on with what we have in mind, and what we have is amazing. Let's make this a little bit prettier. We'll just uncomment this and make this a container width, container width
The 24-hour clock shows the time as
dot divided by 9 into 16. There should be some ideally there should be some calculation in 9. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add some padding to the container. Edge inserts dot all value should be around 10 words. No, this is not where we should add the padding. We should add the padding to the column because we want the card to have the padding inside it. So let's see if this works better. Yeah, that is what we were trying to get. Now let's style the text a bit. So to style the text, we kind of change the enter your name over here. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the builder. We have a text over here. Enter your name. Okay. Let's do some Java stuff over. And now give it some text style. Okay, let's use a pre-built text style over here. So what we can do, since we have access to the context and context has a material app as a parent, so what we can also call theme dot off context dot see. Now we have a lot of things inside the theme. So if we see text theme, so let's write text. So this is the kind of themes that we have. We have accent text theme, we have primary text theme, and we have text theme. Now let's just use the text theme dot. Now we have different text styles. As you can see the return type over here. So we have title. So just let's suppose we do a title, save it. We have a body 1. We have a body 2 as well. We have a caption as well. So if we do a caption, no, caption doesn't. I think display 2 should work. No, definitely not. So we can do some changes in the theme of the main file in one place, and it would be immediately seen in all of the places where this theme dot of context has been used. Title was good enough, I guess. Yeah. So now we want to configure this icon button. So instead of a flat button, we could also do an icon button, and it will have an on press definitely. And instead of a child, it takes an icon parameter. And there is one thing that I like to show you, that if you like, icons have a size, right? And just suppose I want to make it 40 dp. So what happens is, if you go to Flutter inspector and toggle debug paint, and now we can see what is happening. So let's just make it 60. And that is where the problem begins, because see, as we can see, the icon button is only this 40 dp large. And as we keep on increasing the size of the icon, just say 160, the icon size increases and it goes in this direction, which is not what we want. We want the icon to grow over here. And that is what we need to keep in mind, that when we are using icon button, we give the size property, icon size property, to the icon button, and not try to control the size using the icons inbuilt size. So size icon button को देना है, icon को size नहीं देना है. So what will be the icon size? I think 50 works over here. And as you can see, this square starts to grow. Now our, like, the interaction area grows by increasing the icon size property of icon button. So if you ever find yourself confused or this problem arises, this is because you are not giving the icon size to the icon button, but directly giving the size to the icon, which is not something that we should be doing. Format. What's next? We have a text field, and we want like, just suppose I press something and press enter, something should happen, right? But right now nothing is happening, as we can see. So what do we need? This text field needs a controller. Okay. And like, this is a text editing controller. There is something special about text editing controller. This controls the way we usually like, if you want to access the state of a text field, text editing controller is the thing that we use. So if we want to access this text editing controller outside this text field, because on pressed we would want to return the text from this text editing controller. So we can't make it an anonymous object. We have to give this object a name, which means we have to instantiate it before the return statement. Okay, I think I should do this. Yeah, so what this text, so we need to instantiate the text editing controller before we return this. So text editing controller text controller equals to text editing controller, and that should be fine enough. We can also give some initial text. Just suppose if you just want to have a default name, so just suppose I'm giving it the name of Yoda. And now I pass it the text editing controller. And do Control S. So as you can see, Yoda appears. Now I can either change it or let it stay the same. So if I change it and press something, nothing happens yet. This is where we come to the hero of today's show, navigator. Navigator dot of context dot pop text editing controller dot text. So what's happening is, navigator is a stack of screens. Basically, navigator is what controls the stack of screens. And right now this dialog is above the previous screen, and this dialog needs to be popped. Once we pop it, whatever result we put inside this pop gets returned to the thing that has been awaiting on the dialog. So just suppose dot then let's not do that. Print name name. This is just to check whether we have any output or not. So await will show dialog. Show dialog will show this dialog, and this dialog builder will do some stuff. Once you are done with editing the text and you press this sky button, takeoff button, this takeoff button should pop the context of the navigator and return the text value, which is the future that this was awaiting. So now let's save. Begin our adventure. Padawan. So name is equal to Yoda. Begin our adventure. Name is equal to Yoda. What happens is, if you begin your adventure and press outside, name is equal to null. Now that's a problem over here because we want to show the snack bar and we don't want the name to be null. That's right. So we don't want to be able to dismiss this barrier. This is called a modal barrier, and we don't want to be able to dismiss it by just clicking outside the interaction area, which is our card. So what we're gonna do is, where we started the show dialog button, control space, this is barrier dismissible is a boolean that we pass to it and we make it false. By default it's true, but if we make this barrier dismissible function parameter in the show dialog function false, what happens is you can no longer dismiss it via clicking outside the dialog. And now name will never be null. Now I just want to show the snack bar, which is as simple as ever. Show snack bar. Show. We can't just show snack bar. We need a scaffold for it. So scaffold dot of context dot show snack bar. And now once again we need to like give it a new snack bar, and its content would be some text, and let's say let's reformat, save, and kind of let's get rid of this debug paint. Let's see what happens. Yoda. Okay. This is an amazing error. See, scaffold.off called with a context that does not contain a scaffold. No scaffold ancestor could be found starting from the context that was passed to scaffold.off. And this is what happens when you use a context that is above the scaffold, which I will explain in a video later. For now, let's just show you a quick fix to this. See, this sets ask name has a build context, which is this context. Now this context is always above what you return from the state. So this context is the parent of scaffold. So if you go up from that context, you won't find a scaffold because that scaffold is below it, which is what the error is about, that you are not able to find a context. What we can do to remedy this is use a simple builder widget. So where can we put the builder widget? This ask name is being called from within the raised button. So what we can do is we can simply wrap with a new widget and call it builder. And instead of child, we'll give it a builder, which takes a context and returns whatever its child was. And then press Alt Enter and convert this into block body. So once we converted this builder into a block body instead of a lambda function, we gain access to another context where we can define our actual function. So this ask name, we can just put this ask name and we can paste it inside this build function. Now this build function, see, there is a scaffold. Inside this scaffold there is a builder, and this builder widget does nothing but it instantiates a new context, and its child is this raised button from where this ask name is being called. If we rerun this app, Path-1 Yoga is off to an adventure. So it's really important to understand how build context works and what is the widget lifecycle, what state is, what state does. Okay, so we have been able to make our home screen. What's the time right now? It's 9:24 already. So let's leave this session for now. What we were able to cover was we could build the home screen, customize our buttons, load an image, import all the assets, and then we kind of made the first page interactive where at the moment we press the button, a dialog appears and we have this dialog where we can enter our name, and the moment we like take off for our adventure, there's a snack bar which says Padawan Ravish is off to an adventure. This is where we will leave our app for now, and let's meet for on the next session where we will actually complete this with the entire, like we will make different screens and we'll make the entire workflow and complete the app in our next session. Switching back to Hangouts. Guys, should we leave it here, or is there anything else that you'd want us to do? Okay, I moved that ask name to actually be have access to a lower context. Like I have a board over here. Let me show this to you. Okay. Okay. So what happens is that there is a material app and it has a scaffold, and this is where we were working. Now in every build method there is a context, and that ask name method wanted a context, and this context is this one because build method was called here and scaffold was being written from that build method. So the context we had was over here, and when you call dot off scaffold dot off context dot show snack bar, so what happens is that it goes up from this context and tries to find a context above this. But as we can see, we have this context, we don't have any scaffold above this. So what we did, we used a builder widget. What builder widget does is it creates a new context and then Now the new ask name had this context. Now since the new ask name has a context below the scaffold, if it goes up, it immediately finds the scaffold and tells it to show the snack bar. So if we had this context, we were not able to show the snack bar because there was no scaffold. But if we have a context below the scaffold, we can find the scaffold and make it show the snack bar. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay. Okay, Ravish, I understand.
Kevin, I can't
So
hear you.
basically, the scope of a scaffold is not available above that scaffold thing which you have drawn.
For
Is it?
some reason, I can't hear you, Kevin. Can you type what you... Rohit asks, what a scaffold? Scaffold is a material widget that like allows us to call snack bars and show the drawers. It's kind of a framework. Whenever you build a building, there's a lot of pillars and framing that goes on before you actually put the walls and the ceilings. That's what the scaffold is. It's the entire framework. Guys, any more questions? I don't think I can hear you guys. I don't know why. Yeah, that's the idea. The scope of scaffold is not available. And the way it happens is, yeah, I'll just post the source on GitHub. The app that's on GitHub is written in Kotlin and Android. And the part I did right now, there was no preparation. I was just doing it as I spoke. So I'll push this on GitHub. You're free to collaborate on it, and everything would work out. But we'll complete this app in the next session if we get the time to. But that's the main part that we learned today. That we this is how it happens is that whenever you call a build to a widget's child, so whenever a build is called, you have a new context in it. And if the static of method returns there's a helper method in the build context that returns an ancestor. So ancestor means iske upar, like this is the ancestor widget ka child, so this is the ancestor. So to return an ancestor, it needs to travel up. It cannot travel sideways, it cannot travel in the bottom direction. It always travels up. So if you have a context which is above the scaffold, you won't find the scaffold if you travel up. That's the whole point. So like, should we call it a day? Okay, so now we have an interesting announcement for all of us. Flutter documentation is growing really fast. And like the documentation, it was almost 2 to 3 weeks ago. It's not the same documentation today. And that's the amazing thing about it. It's really easily explained and amazing people are working on it. So I'm announcing one more challenge today, that from here we have a documentation discovery channel challenge, where I encourage all of you to go to the Flutter docs and read about different widgets and write about them. Like, read about a widget and write a Medium post or a Twitter tweet about it, or just share it, and then share the link to that tweet or Medium post or a Facebook post to our channels. And the best discovery of the week will get the documentation discovery award. Does that sound nice? Guys, you can like you're on the Hangout, so you can just switch on your mics and let's have a discussion.
Ravish, could you hear me?
So what you need to do is you need to kind of read the docs. If you find an amazing widget, write about it either on Medium, or like a tweet or a Facebook post to anything. Share the link to those posts on our Slack channel, Flutter Kotlin. And throughout the week, every Flutter Friday, we'll all announce two winners. One winner will be Flap of the Week, and the second winner will be Documentation Discovery of the Week. We'll work out the name of the challenge in 2 to 3 days, but that's the whole point.
Sounds good. That is interesting.
Okay, I think that the main problem is we don't have a settings. Kevin, Rohit. Okay, all of your mics are on. Can we? Okay, so let's call it a day and end this session. Look forward to the next session. Thank you so much for your like kind words. It was my first time, and like today is when I figured out that we like we can broadcast like this. We can have a discussion, and the entire discussion gets broadcast into a live stream, and we can all access this entire discussion over there. So this is an amazing thing. Thank you all for attending, and
Thank
this
you.
is where we stop broadcasting. See you.